This is Inclarity Podcast. I'm RJ Starr. This is a show about human behavior, what we do, what we say, and what we often don't even notice.
There's a certain kind of person who always smiles when they talk, even when the words themselves are sharp. They say all the right things. They're never overtly cruel. They ask how you are. They offer to help. They're agreeable, charming, maybe even beloved. But something about them doesn't sit right. Something behind the eyes feels hard to trust.
And yet we do. We trust nice people. We give them the benefit of the doubt. We tolerate their subtle offenses because their tone is warm and their manners are intact. But if someone else said the exact same thing with a different affect, flat, clipped, disinterested, we'd clock it instantly. So what exactly are we responding to? We're responding to performance. And we don't always know we're being pulled in. This isn't a commentary on kindness. True kindness, generosity, patience, presence is a strength. But what we call niceness is often something else entirely. Niceness is surface. Niceness is about comfort, not care. Niceness is behavior performed to maintain image, reduce friction, or disarm others preemptively. We're trained to recognize niceness as good, not just pleasant, good, morally preferable, socially rewarding. From early childhood, we're told to be nice, to use a nice voice, to play nice with others. Nice becomes the baseline behavior required to be accepted. And for many people, especially women, niceness becomes a survival mechanism. You don't just act nice to be liked. You act nice so you aren't punished. But when niceness is divorced from intention, when it's performed out of fear, habit, or manipulation, it becomes a mask. And masks always come with a cost. Let's define what we mean here.
Niceness, as a social behavior, is about perceived harmlessness. It's the art of appearing easy to be around. A nice person is agreeable, accommodating, and unthreatening. They don't make demands. They don't raise their voice. They don't make others uncomfortable. But here's where it gets tricky. Niceness can be manufactured. You can fake it. You can weaponize it. And when you do, it becomes a kind of emotional sleight of hand, drawing attention away from behavior that would otherwise raise alarms.
Think of the manager who uses soft language to cover hard decisions. The friend who nicely invalidates your experience with a smile.
The coworker who always plays mediator, but subtly undermines you in private.
Or the romantic partner who never yells, but slowly erodes your self-trust through condescension and charm. Niceness protects these patterns. It creates plausible deniability. It keeps people guessing. But they're so nice, they probably didn't mean it that way. This is where cognitive dissonance begins to set in. Because we've been trained to trust tone over content, effect over impact. If someone sounds gentle, we assume they are. If they speak softly, we assign them positive intent, even when our body feels otherwise. That's the root of the dissonance, the clash between what we sense and what we're socially conditioned to believe. And when that dissonance becomes chronic, we stop trusting ourselves. We override the feeling. We doubt the signal. We interpret politeness as proof of safety. This is especially dangerous in emotionally manipulative relationships, because manipulation doesn't always look like force. It often looks like fluency in charm, warmth, reassurance. An emotionally manipulative person may never raise their voice or issue a threat. Instead, they'll smile when they withhold information.
They'll say, "I'm just trying to help," while gaslighting you.
They'll joke in ways that target your insecurity, then say, "I was just being nice." It's hard to name the harm because it's cloaked in civility. That's the genius of the performance. And it works because we're taught to look for bad behavior in the loud, the angry, the rough-edged. We're not taught to look for it in the polished. Let's get personal. Many people, especially those raised in households where conflict was unsafe, learn early on to equate niceness with protection. If I'm nice, they won't get mad. If I'm nice, I'll be safe. If I'm nice, I'll be accepted. So they develop niceness as a strategy to stay connected, to stay invisible, to keep the peace. But when a person's survival depends on suppressing their own needs in favor of appearing likable, they lose the ability to identify genuine connection. Niceness becomes the currency of self-worth. It also becomes the expectation of others. People who perform niceness long enough get trapped in it.
You can't break character without backlash.
The moment you say no or express frustration, someone says you've changed, or that you're overreacting, or that you're not being nice anymore. And so you retreat. You go back to smiling. You go back to making others feel comfortable, even when you're falling apart. Now let's look at the other side of it. The people who use niceness as leverage. These are the ones who rely on the performance of charm to build a shield around themselves. They may not even be aware they're doing it, but they've learned that being perceived as likable gives them room to operate unchecked. The workplace version of this is particularly common. Someone in power, well-dressed, well-spoken, always smiling, makes a backhanded comment in a meeting. You feel the sting, but when you look around, no one seems bothered. In fact, a few people laugh. And you think, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe it's just their way. But it wasn't the words that confused you, it was the contradiction, the mismatch between the pleasant tone and the subtle jab, the dissonance between their smiling delivery and the dismissive content, the social energy that says, this person is so nice, how could they possibly mean harm? That's the performance at work. And if you challenge it, you risk being labeled difficult.
Because nice people don't have critics. They have troubled colleagues, oversensitive friends, angry partners.
This creates a culture where impact is ignored if the intent appears kind, where harm is allowed to continue because no one wants to seem like they're overreacting to someone just being nice. So, what do we do with this?
We start by distinguishing niceness from kindness. Because kindness has no performance requirement. It doesn't need to be soft-spoken or well-dressed.
It can be firm, direct, even uncomfortable. Kindness is about presence and responsibility. Niceness is about optics. One aims to connect, the other aims to appease. When we collapse the two, we lose clarity. We excuse behavior we should confront. We overlook patterns we should be paying attention to.
And we internalize the message that if something looks good, it must be good.
But authenticity doesn't always look good. It doesn't always feel easy, and it doesn't always sound nice. Sometimes authenticity is blunt. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes it's a hard conversation that makes everyone a little uncomfortable, but moves the relationship forward with honesty.
The goal isn't to abandon politeness or to call out every performance.
It's to notice what's real, to tune into your internal signals when something doesn't sit right, and to give yourself permission to trust those signals even when the other person is being nice. Because that discomfort you feel when someone smiles while saying something cutting, that's not you being dramatic. That's your nervous system reading a contradiction.
Because that tightness in your chest when you're with someone who always makes backhanded compliments sound like praise, that's your body calling bullshit.
Because the fatigue you feel after spending time with someone who never gets mad, but always leaves you feeling small, that's the cost of being around performance. Your body knows, even when your brain hesitates. We live in a world where social smoothness is prized,
where being likable is often more important than being honest. But the people who truly see us, who hold us accountable, who care for us in ways that stretch beyond politeness, they may not always be nice.
They'll challenge us. They'll mess up. They'll show us who they are, not through charm, but through consistency. And that's the measure we should be using. Not how someone talks, but how they treat people when there's nothing to gain. How they respond when they're called in. How they behave when the mask slips and the stakes are real. Because the performance of niceness will keep you comfortable,
but it won't keep you safe. And sometimes, the person who sounds the gentlest can do the most damage, because no one ever thinks to look behind the curtain. The next time you feel conflicted around someone who's so nice, ask yourself, is this person kind? Is this person accountable? Or do they just know how to play the part? Then pay attention to what your body tells you.
That's where the clarity is.